Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this week's episode of the Contented Narratives, where we will be looking at The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, this was written by L. Frank Baum, and it was published in the 1900, sorry. It has had a few adaptations, one of which is The Muppets Wizard of Oz, which is a firm favourite of my own. However, I will be looking at the more traditional version that was released in 1939. Now, I will be, of course, looking at four major things. I'll be looking at plot, how well is the film, how good is the book, and overall, how well does the film take from the book. So first of all, we're going to start with the plot, as we always do. Now, just before I start, just to let you know that there will be spoilers in this episode as I do discuss the film and the book in its entirety. So, the film starts with some backstory and Dorothy trying to save Toto from an awful woman, but also talking with the farmhands who, when she ends up in Oz, look like the Scarecrow, the Tin Man and the Lion, as well as when she runs away as well. The person that she meets turns out to be the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and the Wicked Witch of the West is the woman that's trying to get Toto killed. No, I know, it's quite dark. So she runs away, she meets a travelling con man, basically. He convinces her to then go back home. As she goes back home, there's a cyclone happening in that time, and as she's trying to find her Auntie Em and her Uncle Henry, she gets trapped in the house and gets transported over to Oz, which seems quite a terrifying experience for her, and she's, on edge at all times. However, in the book, we're introduced quite quickly to the characters. The cyclone happens almost straight away. She gets transported through to Oz and she falls asleep during the transportation because she's just not that bothered. So that happens quite quickly in the book. Now, when she comes and arrives in Oz, in both she does kill the Wicked Witch of the East, and in both she asks the Good Witch to, and in both the Munchkins ask the Good Witch to come and check out who Dorothy is and find out if she's a good witch or a bad witch, and basically what's her purpose. So the big difference is the ruby red slippers. So in the film they are ruby red. In the book, however, they are silver. I don't know why they quite made that change to the colour. It makes no sense to me, but everybody knows the ruby red slippers over the silver ones. So in the film, the Wicked Witch of the West comes, sees that her sister is dead, tries to get the ruby slippers. However, they are now on Dorothy's feet, and she's unable. So therefore, she's biding her time to try and get these slippers off of Dorothy. However, in the book, this never happens. The Wicked Witch of the West never turns up looking for the slippers. So in the book and in the film, in both, she sort of gets welcomed to the Munchkins and everything. She tries to figure out how to get home. The Good Witch says, "I'm really sorry, I can't help you. However, Oz might be able to help you with the Emerald City." So they tell her to follow the yellow brick road. And in the book, she doesn't set off straight away. She washes up, she has something to eat, she puts herself in order. At this point, she isn't wearing the silver slippers, but as she goes in, she sees the silver slippers on the table and goes, "Actually, I could do with wearing those because my shoes are pretty done." So she puts them on and she heads off on the yellow brick road. In the film, again, it's quite a bit quicker. So she does the talk, she does the musical number, and then she just goes to follow the yellow brick road, and off she pops. So in both, Dorothy goes off on the yellow brick road, and as she's going off on the yellow brick road, she meets our first travelling companion, the Scarecrow. Now, the Scarecrow would like some brains. So in both, he admits that he wants brains. In the film, it's through a fantastic musical number. In the book, however, it's a story of him telling of how he was created, how he's been made, and how he thinks his life would be so much better if he only had a brain. So that's one big recurring difference, is the fact that the film is a musical, and the book is obviously you can't really have a musical in a book. So that's one thing that I will be touching upon throughout the plot. So the Scarecrow and Dorothy then head off, and they come across the Tin Man. Now, he wants to ask Oz for a heart. Now, in the book, it's because he'd fallen in love with someone, wanted to marry her, wasn't able to marry her because the spinster mother didn't want the woman to leave the home. So she goes to the Wicked Witch of the West, who slowly but surely maims him, and someone creates a tin body for him. A little bit lighter in the film. Again, it's a little jaunty musical number just to say that he would be a caring person and everything if he only had a heart. So while this is going on in the film, the Wicked Witch of the West is keeping a very close eye on Dorothy and her travelling companions and trying to throw up little things here and there to keep her from succeeding, as it were. Again, this isn't happening in the book, not even slightly. So in the film, as they're going along, they then come across the lion. Now the lion wants courage from Oz, and once again, musical number saying about how, you know, he needs the courage to be the lion. In the book, again, we just hear his story as he tells it. So now the gang is complete. So in the film, when the gang finally get together and it's all of them are complete, they end up going through a poppy field, because the Wicked Witch of the West has got them through a poppy field, and the lion and Dorothy end up falling asleep in the poppy field, but get saved by Glinda, the Good Witch, who makes it snow and wakes them up. However, in the book, we've got a while to go before we get there. So, in the book, they come first to a ravine where the lion takes each one and jumps across, so leaps across the ravine and lands safely on the other side. Then they come to another ravine where the Tin Man chops down a tree and helps them safely get across. As they're crossing this tree, though, two beasts do come from the wood. The lion roars at them. They keep coming, so the Scarecrow comes up with a good idea of cutting the tree down from their side, which will then plunge them and plummet them into nothingness, which works. So then in the book, they come to a river and the Tin Man starts to build a raft so they can cross. So in the book, it's already been several days that they're journeying before they've even got to this point. In the film, it almost seems straight away, like within a space of 2 days, I think, maybe 3 tops. But we keep seeing points where they're stopping for the night, where they're stopping to eat and everything, which never seems a problem in the film. So anyway, as they're crossing the river, the Scarecrow ends up stuck in the middle of the river, attached to a pole, but they have to keep going. They keep going, they get to the other side, they walk, they're trying to find their way back to the yellow brick road, and they see the Scarecrow and they're like, we can't come save you. But then a lovely little heron comes and saves them, which is quite cute. It saves Scarecrow and gives them back. So now in the book, we're back to where we were in the film, which is with the poppy field. So in the book, as I said, Dorothy, Toto and the lion fall asleep. They get woken up by snow, which Good Witch Glinda puts on. However, in the film, they fall asleep and get woken up by snow. It's in the book. Dorothy and the Toto and the lion fall asleep. The Tin Man and Scarecrow carry Dorothy to safety, and Toto to safety, but cannot save the lion. However, the Tin Man then ends up saving the Queen of the Mice from a horrible death. She then says, what can I do to help you? They then build some sort of like it's something that you pull people on. I'm going to say like a sled or something. They build that. They gather all the little mice. They go into the poppy field and they save the lion, which is quite nice, teamwork and all that. So they've now saved everybody. Everyone's back together and they're now back on the yellow brick road. And they've come to the wonderful Emerald City to come see the Wizard of Oz. So when they arrive in the Emerald City, in the book, they wear glasses, which we later find out, but if you're reading it and you're not under the age of 8, you know that the glasses are put on because nothing in that city is emerald. They put the glasses on and it puts a green tint to everything. We know that. But yeah, so they have to wear glasses. And they're told they can see the wizard, but only one person at a time and only one person per day. So that's a bit different to the film, because in the film they arrive to see the wizard, they get spruced up, they get told that the wizard's not going to see anyone. Dorothy starts crying, they take pity and take him in to the thing to meet the wizard. Now in the book, the wizard asks each one of them to kill the Wicked Witch of the West. Each one of them declines, and then they realise they've got no choice and they then go off to try and kill the Wicked Witch of the West. In the film, all he wants is the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West, because that's what holds her power. So it's slightly different. As I said, he still wants something from them to get them home, but it's a bit darker in the book. He wants them to execute. And bear in mind, Dorothy's a child. So in the book, they set out to then kill the witch. Now in the film, as they set out, they get ambushed. Dorothy and Toto get kidnapped by the Wicked Witch's flying monkeys and taken to her castle, and the other three end up having to try and rescue her. However, in the book, as I said, as they're setting off to kill the Wicked Witch of the West, she first sets wolves upon them, and the Tin Man kills them all. Then she sets crows upon them, and the Scarecrow kills all the crows. Then she sets bees upon them. The Scarecrow covers Toto, Dorothy and the lion with straw, and the Tin Man lets the bees sting him, so they all die. And then she finally sets the Winkies on them. But however, the lion scared them away by shouting at them. Well, roaring at them, not really shouting. So finally, she uses a charmed cap to call up the winged monkeys. Now, in the film, the winged monkeys are her personal slaves. In the book, the winged monkeys will only do 3 things for her, and she's already used 2, so she now only has 1 wish left, as it were, and that's to get them there. So in the books, they dash the Tin Man on some rocks, which dents him completely. They rip the Scarecrow into pieces. They capture the lion and take him to the witch's place, but due to a kiss on Dorothy's forehead from the Good Witch at the beginning of the book, they are unable to harm her, and so end up carrying her to the witch's lair. The witch, realising that Dorothy has the silver shoes on, which are of immense power, decides to keep her as a slave because she thinks Dorothy's a bit naive and a bit stupid, which, again, she's a child, but yeah, she's a little bit naive. So several days seem to pass in the book. In the film, it's almost straight away, like it's an hourglass, basically, gets turned around. And, Dorothy ends up defeating the witch. And it's basically the same way in both. She ends up melting the witch with just water, just normal water. God, I'd hate to think how dirty that witch was if she couldn't use water to bathe. So Dorothy ends up accidentally killing the witch, as it were. Doesn't mean to, but she does. Which means that she has now freed the Winkies, who help her then rescue and return her friends to their former glory. And gives them all gifts for helping to save them, so like bejeweled this and crowned that and all of that. So then also Dorothy takes the flying monkey's summoning hat, which she doesn't realise what it is yet, but when she does realise it, the flying monkeys then take her back to Oz. So in both, the little company come back to Oz, come back and say, this is what's happened, we've done what you've asked, now can you give us what you promised? And they find out he is a complete and utter fraud. Unfortunately, we could have seen this coming. We did see this coming, but poor little Dorothy didn't. However, he still manages to give a brain to the Scarecrow, because he realises that the Scarecrow had brains all along, the Tin Man had hearts all along, the Cowardly Lion had courage all along, and then you've got Dorothy is the hardest one, because you've got to try and figure out how to get her home to Kansas. But he still gives them like a little heart and a little... In the book, it's like a liquid that he gives the lion to give him courage. In the film, it's like a little medal. But it's pretty much the same thing. It's all shams, just making them believe that they had it there all along. So then he explains to Dorothy that, he is a fraud, but he has a hot air balloon. So that's how they're going to be able to escape. However, it flies off without her in it, which is not very good. So at this point in the film, the Good Witch is already there and basically tells Dorothy that, the shoes had the power. The shoes are the ones that, you can click your heels 3 times there, no place like home, and off you pop. However, in the book, they seem to go on a whole nother adventure to find the Good Witch, Glinda, who in the film they've already met. In the book, not so much. So they then go off so that Glinda can send her home. They travel through they travel through much more lands, which is actually quite cool. And when they get to Glinda's castle, Glinda says, "I will send you home, but you have to give me the cap for the summoning monkeys." So Dorothy agrees, gives her the cap, says, "Go for it." So Glinda then gives the Scarecrow control over Oz again, because before Oz the Great and Powerful left, he said the Scarecrow will be your new leader of the Emerald City. So Scarecrow gets transported back to the Emerald City. The lion is now king of the beasts of the forest, so he gets transported back to the forest, and the Tin Man then gets transported off to enjoy his life, basically, as it were. And then Glinda tells Dorothy that there's no place like home, just click your heels and they will take you where you need to be. So in both, she ends up getting transported back home. In the film, it's almost like we're presented with this idea that it was a dream, that it was all in her head, that it was sort of like make-believe, whereas in the book, you're led to believe that this really did happen. And I like that ending better, that it actually did happen and she's now back with her family. But again, that's how they chose to end it in the film, and that's how they chose to end it in the book. So as far as the plot goes, the biggest difference is, of course, the fact that it's a musical. But the musical did bring us fantastic songs. So it included like original songs, which are all timeless to me, to be fair. It does have a lot more content in the book, especially with travelling through different worlds, and it does take longer for the journey to happen. I do understand why they cut it down, because again, you have to keep the audience's attention. So they did miss rather a lot of the plot points, and they did miss the whole second adventure as well, from Emerald City to Glinda's castle. And I feel like that would have been nice to see, because then you saw the world of China, and you saw these little like creatures that headbutted you or something. They were horrible, nasty little things, and I would have liked to see that on screen. They did, however, what they took from the book was amazing. It was beautifully done, it was elegantly crafted, and they did keep with the major plot points of the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion, the Good Witch, the Bad Witch, the Yellow Brick Road, so on and so forth. Overall, I'm willing to give it a 6 out of 10 for plot. Now the film. So I watched this film many years ago, and you know, I've watched it quite recently as well for this channel. And as I said before, although my favourite version of Wizard of Oz is the Muppets, I do apologise for any hardcore film fans out there. I just adore the Muppets so much. Muppet Treasure Island, I'll probably be touching on that in a few episodes' time. But I do appreciate how lovely this film is. For the fact that it came out in 1939 as well, visually it's stunning, it's timeless, it's aged so well. You've got songs that people still sing even if they've never seen the film. Like, you know, Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, Witch Old Witch, The Wicked Old Witch. I'm pretty sure everybody's sung that at some point in their lives. You've got Somewhere Over the Rainbow, you've got We're Off to See the Wizard, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, you've got Follow the Yellow Brick Road, Follow the Yellow... You've literally got like all of those. Everybody knows these songs even if they've never seen the film. And for it to have that sticking power when it came out in 1939, it just shows how timeless a classic it is. It's a classic tale of good over evil, and the fact that in the film as well it mirrors her real life, I think is a very nice touch if you've never read the book. Now, the film stands in its own right, and although I do enjoy this one, it's not one that I tend to go back to often. It's one that once in a blue moon I'll be like, oh, let's watch that. I'm waiting for Wicked to come out, on Blu-ray. I've seen it in theatre like so many times, but I would still recommend this film. I would recommend it as a 7 out of 10. It is a classic, timeless film. And then watch Muppets, Wizard of Oz, so that's even better. Now the book, I've never actually read this book before. It was only because my sister Nikki got it for me for a birthday present that I decided to read it and decided to do it as one of my episodes, and I was pleasantly surprised with it. I thoroughly enjoyed the story. The narrative is easy for anyone to follow because obviously it is a children's book. It is something that you can read with your children, or you can read to your children, or you can read if you're an adult as well. It was quite a nice, easy read. The fact that the book came out 120 years ago and people are still reading this book and still enjoying it and still reading it to their kids shows how of a perfect story it is. And again, you've got the imagination as well. You've got the Munchkins, you've got Oz, you've got the Emerald City, you've got everything that you could want from a book. and I love a good fairy tale, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I would definitely recommend picking up this book, especially in this cover as well, because this cover is beautiful. Like, I love the feel of it, I love the look of it, and it looks perfect on my shelves. Not these ones, because they're all the same height, but my mismatched shelf down the bottom, it definitely fits. So overall, now the setting is pretty much the same. As mentioned above, the film narrative did miss a lot of the plot. They did mess with the characters a little bit as well, and the film had main characters the film had the main characters be people in Dorothy's life as well as in Oz, which, as I said, was not the case in the book. So I love the fact that the film is a musical, and honestly I feel like that is probably what has made it a classic, and I love what they took from the book. However, because they did change a few things and incorporate their own spin on it, I'm going to give the film narrative overall a 6 out of 10 from taken from the book. Now, as usual, this is my own opinion. If you do disagree or agree with anything I say, just leave it in the comments below. Click subscribe for the channel. You can be notified whenever a new video comes out. Don't forget to always pick up a book that you're recommending, and let me know as well if there's a book that you really think that I should sink my teeth into. So join me next week for my contented narrative around American Psycho. But until then, just remember to always keep it contento.